Said it's incredibly humbling to be standing up here. Your energy and enthusiasm is so contagious. We certainly know why Relay's had this growth in 25 years. And you just heard that Relay for Life didn't start out as a huge international event that raises more money than any other nonprofit on earth. But let's go back to that beginning. I was 45 years old. I was in the prime of my life. I was one of Gordy's non-cancer patients. And I was inspired by the fact that he didn't just want to talk about fighting cancer, he wanted to do something about it. I remember hearing about what he was planning to do at the University of Puget Sound's Baker Field. I even pledged $10 to his event, and that was a lot of money in those days. I'd gone to bed that night, but something drew me up to the track. I got out of bed and I drove the 5 minutes and went up there. But when I got there, I had to peek over the fence because it wasn't a public event, and the gate was locked. There's a lesson to be learned there. Security is important, but don't let it keep people out of your And the story doesn't end there. I went back up 2 more times during the night and early morning. I have to say that my husband thought I was nuts. He did not understand why I kept getting out of bed, but it's okay. At midnight, I called our local newspaper and told them about this astonishing story that was unfolding at Baker Field, and they really needed to get somebody up there with a camera. They, of course, gave me the story about, you know, on Friday night at midnight, it's double overtime, but they did show up at 6 in the morning and got a great picture of Gordy probably at his worst. Gordy called me a couple of months later to ask if I would join him and 6 others to plan the first team event. And just as you've all had to do, we had a lot of logistical details to contend with to get that first relay started. We didn't have a warehouse of great relay stuff like you do. We had a track, and we had some music. And I had my media contacts to help promote it. That was it. We still hadn't figured out what a wonderful place to honor survivors or those who we've lost. That all came along. But looking back, I actually think it was for the best that it was so simple when we began. Because if Relay had been a big corporate entity to begin with, I'm not sure it would have seen the same grassroots support that we're seeing with Relay. But do you know, and you probably do know, what stands out in my memory most clearly? It was that special spirit that permeated the track that night, and I have that same feeling at every event, every track I walked on around this United States. And you all know what I'm talking about. As we've learned, a huge part of the magic of Relay is that it is about a community taking up the fight together. Now that doesn't mean that all relays will look or feel exactly the same, and that's okay. In fact, that's what inspired the first ever Relay Summit, though it wasn't anything so large as this or so well attended. But after a few years, we realized that relays were seeing the same kind of interest in the communities as we were seeing in Tacoma. We wanted to know what we all had in common so we could keep growing. We actually held trainings during our event. I look back at it now and think, I don't know how we ever did it. But we would take turns going back and forth from the track to the hotel. We'd start getting the track ready at 6 in the morning for our 6 p.m. start. But 1 minute we'd be at the track working logistics, and the next minute we'd be up at the hotel on a mic teaching relayers from around the country how to do it. And that's what started the long-standing relay tradition of passing the mic. We'd just get a few people together and see what great ideas everybody had. And that was probably the best part of the early trainings. That method worked then and it works now. So don't ever stop sharing what you're doing that makes relay work. Really important thing. You may not always have a room full of relayers and a mic, but you can share ideas whenever you get the chance. And apparently now you can do it anytime, night or day, on relayforlife.org. I'm looking forward to spending this weekend with all of you, talking one-on-one and attending breakouts to learn what's new in relays as we pass the mic. But I wanted to leave you now with one note of encouragement. I stay in close touch with many people that are involved with relay. And I hear the talk about how relays can start to stagnate or level off when it comes to teams or even fundraising. While this does happen, I challenge you to think of ways that you can be creative to avoid this pitfall. The Tacoma event, the Tacoma Relay, is still my hometown event. And if ever an event were to seem that it should level off, it would be the one that's the oldest. Wouldn't you think? Well, that's not happening in Tacoma, Washington. We have continued to recruit new volunteers every single year for 25 years. We're bigger and better than ever. We can truly say that we started with a single one-man team, if you will, and our event is now 165 teams strong, and we raised $909,000 this year. And more importantly, we have spun off 9 relays in our county from our Tacoma event. So instead of one relay, we have 10, and we have mentored every one of those, helped them get started, and now we all just support each other. So I hope you never lose your inspiration to relay, and that you learn from each other new ways to keep up the fight. I certainly didn't expect on that cold May night 25 years ago that the activity I was volunteering in would turn into an event that takes place all over the world. But I've always been confident in the possibilities. So folks, I want you to think about this. Research continues, better treatment advances are made, half of the country is smoke-free, legislators make cancer funding a priority now. And that's all because of us. That's all because of Relay for Life. Thank you all.